Good morning, team. It's Pat O'Malley, co-host of the Keep Going podcast, athlete shining a light on mental health. If you can't tell, one, I got the Harper Hawks gear on today, so you know I'm fired up. And two, I'm even more fired up. I got Joe Silva in the building. What's going on, Joe?
Pat, good to hear from you, man. Doing well. How are you?
I'm real good, man. And I appreciate you. Anytime I get a sweet dude, we always talk about it, getting sweet dudes on the pod. You're one of them, man. And I'm very blessed, very honored to have you on today, man.
I appreciate it. Much respect, dude. We go way back to those Elk Grove, Arlington Heights days.
You know it, baby. Action Heights. We're going to dig into that today. It would be a damn shame to not bring up Adam before the episode because without Adam, we wouldn't be connected. So shout out Adam. He was one of our first guests that came on, and I know he's been a big part of not only my life but yours for sure.
Oh yeah, big ups. I mean, that's my guy, and obviously your brother too. And yeah, I think just his impact on our careers, both work wise and in baseball and athletics in general. But yeah.
Yeah, he's a great dude. And I'm guaranteed he's going to come up at some point today. But in all seriousness, Joe, like obviously the mental health podcast, man. I know if you follow our socials, you see the baseball stuff, you see what you've been doing in the coaching field. Talk about mental health and what you've been doing this week to kind of help your mental health.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think everyone has a unique perspective to it because, right, like we are just individuals, right? So it depends on how you go about it. But I mean, for me personally, right, um, mental health and some of the things that I do just to, kind of keep my mind right is exercise, right? That's the first and foremost part. Um, whether it's working out, enjoying playing rounds of golf when I can, right? If the schedule allows.
Mm-hmm.
But then also too, just like keeping a running like journal, so to speak, on like, hey, these are, daily tasks I want to accomplish. This is, monitoring how I'm feeling in the morning, afternoon, evening, right? And kind of being able to identify, hey, this is a good setting and environment for me, and keeping track of, hey, these are good days, these are bad days, and um, not weighing too much into when there's a bad day, and just being able to be like, hey, we can move on, we can bounce back from this, and yeah, not getting too high on the highs, not too low on the lows. But
I love
that's
it, man.
baseball. That's baseball.
That's baseball for you, man. We're already cooking, man. I listened to a pod the other day with Bobby Witt Jr., who I love. Like, I love how Bobby Witt Jr. does things. If you don't know who that is, watch some more baseball because he's fantastic. And he talks about that journaling piece in identifying those triggers. It's the same importance level of when it's going really good and when it's going really bad to identify those triggers. I'm glad that we touched on that early. But in the baseball realm here, talk about early on Joe Silva. Like, when did the bat get in your head? How were you as a kid in the sports world, man?
From a young age. And I got to give credit to my mom. Shout out Allison Silva.
I need it,
She
baby.
was
I
the
need it.
one.
Shout out to mom.
She was the one that, and obviously my dad, which I'll talk about in a second. But I mean, he's a huge influential piece, in my athletic career. But um, the story goes, my dad was traveling internationally for work for, it could have been a couple few weeks, could have been a month, and I was young, and my mom was righty. So then she just like flipped me around and put me left-handed on the other side of the tee when I was probably two, I think. And so my dad came back from China, long and short of it is. And yeah, I was a lefty. He's like, all right, my son's a lefty bat. So that's the very early beginnings. But yeah, Arlington Heights, born and raised, went to Hersey High School, Concordia, Chicago, played ball there as well. Um, and then I got into coaching. So it's been an awesome just journey in athletics and baseball specifically.
I love it. And I knew I had to blame one of your parents for you killing me throughout my college career at the plate from the left side. And that's who I have to blame now. I can't really blame you. I have to blame your parents, unfortunately. So that's where we're at. But on a serious note, man, you've been such a big part of not only my playing career and my coaching career, but so many other people's that you've crossed paths with over the last, I don't know, 20 plus years now playing this game, coaching this game. Talk about what the game means to you, man. Like, what does baseball mean to you? And like, what are you looking to get out of this?
Yeah, no, I mean, the game is everything to me. I think that I've had a knack for it since a young age, right? Whether it's playing or coaching, right? Like knew there was eventually going to be a shelf life on my career. So, and I've had great, mentors and coaches and influences along the way that have guided me on a path that, ultimately is where I'm at today and the things that I want to go about and accomplish. So, yeah, it's been a great journey. Love the game and, just a huge fan of it in general. Like I'm in love with the process. I talk about it a ton with my players and, it's one of those things where, hey, baseball's such a cerebral game. Right. And,
Right.
Very, I don't know how you want to say it. Like, it's just a very like, I don't know. It's like how, it's the Billy Bean. How can you not be romantic about baseball, so to speak?
I completely agree. And I want to stay on that. I want to stay on your kids, man, because I saw the Benedictine community come out on Instagram this week when we put up the promotion stuff. These guys are going to war for you, man. Talk about what you do with your guys on the mental health, the mental performance side to keep them sharp and to keep them on the top of their game.
Yeah, certainly. No. And big shout out to my guys, the Red Hawks down in Mesa. We're building something special down in Arizona. But yeah, no, I think from a mental side of things, I think that, hey, everyone's kind of has their own individual way that they want to go about it, right? Some, team focused things that we do, especially with our hitters, is visualization, right? Some guys keep a journal just on like a diary on their log as far as their at bats, right? And what we do to start practice, the first 10 minutes or so is some sort of meditation, so to speak, right? And if guys want to use that time for 10 minutes to, sit in silence, if they want to focus on their breathing, if they want to meditate, if they want to pray, right? That's that 10 minutes leading up to practice where they can get their minds right, for whatever specifically they need.
I like that.
To then focus it back into, hey, let's have a good team practice and keep it about, the program.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer, man. It's so funny that it's one of those things where back when we played, even it wasn't getting that much light, right? Like it wasn't getting that much playing time to be like, hey, go journal, go pray, go meditate. The special guys did it, and you saw the successful guys do it, but it's becoming more common now, which makes me happy having this podcast, obviously. Talk about the kid that's struggling, man. Talk about a guy that's struggling either with the game, outside of the stuff, classroom stuff, family stuff. Advice for maybe athletes out there that are struggling.
Yeah, no, and I think that when it comes to like struggling, it's hard to define that, right? Because how do you truly know a kid's struggle, their day to day, their upbringing, right? You can hear stories of, their background and maybe some struggles that they've had, but until you dive in and the brain is so complex, right? So for me as a coach, I'm just trying to obviously just better understand these guys and who they are, from a one-on-one standpoint, and trying to give them the best resources possible to put them in a position to succeed, ultimately down the road. And that looks different for everyone.
Yeah, no doubt. I think every situation is different. I think mental health, we've touched on it in 90 episodes now, man. Like it's not cookie cutter, unfortunately. Like when someone's struggling, like you said earlier, like everyone has a unique situation. And we've been through that student athlete grind, right? Like we've been through the D3 grind of, okay, I got this and then this, but what if this goes wrong? We've been there. So I think that helps our guys and it helps those relationships. Do you feel like that's helped you in the coaching role?
Yeah, 1000%. Just building in relationships, right? Like trying to, um, like I said, get to know the guys, right? And I think that you've kind of had probably some very similar experiences, like you had mentioned, like the D3 grind or whatever. It's like, hey,
Oh yeah.
this is for the love of the game, right? Like these
Yep.
boys are out here, they're competing, with a purpose, right? They're not doing it for, the jerseys or the NIL, and that's a whole
Oh
another can of
yeah.
worms. But like, hey, at the end of the day, guys just want to play ball. They want to get after it, and being able to kind of counter that, hey, like obviously being their coach, right? But also trying to be, a mentor or a guide or a guide or a consultant to them in any way possible, right?
Yeah. And I see it, man. And I know that our listeners today they're gonna see a confident young man talking on this podcast. And it's like, it's cool to finally see you get the keys to the car, man. Like it's fun to watch you as a head coach out there. You're probably one of the youngest head coaches in the conference, if I had to guess, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured. Because what, you're 27 now or 28? How old are you?
28.
28.
Yeah.
Man, so 28, you got the keys to the car, man. It's fun to watch you grow as a young man. But as I've told you before, man, there's some ups and downs in this thing. It's not always been the confident Joe Silva that everyone's listening to today. Talk about your keep going moment, man.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think for me, that was probably towards it was the end of my freshman year of college, playing ball at Concordia, Chicago. And I had a good freshman year. Towards the end of it, I had a really bad shoulder injury. So that required labrum and rotator cuff complete surgery. And the summertime just focused it all on rehab. But again, like that kind of also that summer and then into the fall led me to, kind of changing my mindset. I'm like, hey, being a college baseball coach in general, right? I had great mentors and influences, like that were my coaches, right? Colin Connor, the head coach at Concordia, Chicago. He was
shout him out.
Yes, absolutely. He was one of the first guys to tell me, he's like, hey, like, you should think about, coaching college baseball. Like, thought that I would be a good fit. And that was something that really stuck out to me. But then that fall, right, where I'm not playing, I'm just kind of in the background and I get to see the game through a different perspective, right? Through the lens of a coach. And, for a 19-year-old kid at the time, like that, I think helped me, mature and grow up, and there were growing pains throughout that. Right. But, that summer going into the fall and in the wintertime of rehabbing the shoulder, there were some struggles, right? And, coming back and, getting back into the lineup, not being the start in the lineup, at the beginning of the sophomore year, but then, cracked my way in. I had a, pinch hit at bat against Webster in the 13th or 14th inning. And, kind of went from there. I had a very good season, but again, like it was the people around me. It was my teammates. Right. And I think that that's another good point to focus on too, is your support system, right? As a ball player or as an individual, right? It's like you had that built-in network and community of, having 40 brothers. And, that really helped me get through, some, difficult stretches. But again, too, like, hey, we're in college, we're playing baseball, we're getting an education. Like, it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah. And I've said this on other episodes. I love when I have a guy on or a girl on here, and when they start talking about something, their face changes. And when you start talking about your boys, your teammates, your coaches, that's when it changed in this conversation right now, man. So I love that about you. Like it's always about the we, not the me side of things, man. And that makes me proud, man, because that's something that you live by every day. And it's authentic, man. I just want to tell you that.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out the Cougars. And I know you can shout out the Regions, but yeah, no.
I ain't shouting out. I'm not shouting the Regions. I'm not shouting the Regions out. Not today, guys. Not today. This is the wrong podcast to shout the Regions out. If you run those stats back, it's ugly, guys. It's ugly. Don't look into those. Silva gave us a hard time, that's for sure. But no, in all seriousness, man, like, it's awesome to hear you talk about your support group, because honestly, when we came into this space as a podcast, as a nonprofit, we were welcomed with open arms. All these big times, the hidden opponents, the Morgan's Message of the world, me to we, my guy, Zach Gale, like these guys opened up the gate for us and said, come on in and be a part of this community. And I'm forever blessed about that. So if you're out there right now and you're struggling, get with your people. And if you ask someone that you think is your person and it doesn't work, go to somebody else. Because at the end of the day, we have to keep moving and establishing those positive relationships. That's for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. And just like kind of to go off of that is like having kind of what you were getting at is like to have a safe space, right? And however that looks for you as an individual, if it's teammates, if it's a couple of close friends, if it's a pastor at a church, if it's a counselor, however that
Right.
may look, a therapist, right? Being able to have that safe space to, kind of, vent or just discuss, issues in your life, talking about how you feel amongst that and, kind of how you go from there. So I think that's it's imperative just having a support system around you that is a safe space for any conversation.
I completely agree. And I think we often, as young adults and anybody, right, we feel bad asking for help sometimes. And we're sitting there, and I sit there at my desk some days. I'm in Excel or back in the college coaching days. I'm trying to figure something out at 22, and I'm going, why would I take 5 hours to do this when I could ask someone for help? I could do it in 30. But like people out there every day are not trying to put their pride aside, or they feel like they're not worthy of that help. Talk about that, man, because I know as a young head coach, you're not doing this by yourself, man.
Because we're stubborn, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's what it is. But like you said, putting that pride aside, but also knowing where you can go, the resources that you have,
right.
and the help that you can gain out of that, right? And that opens new, avenues for connections, right? And everyone's going through their own struggle, right? And like you said, like, hey, I have an incredible staff, support around me, just
Right.
in my personal, my ball players, and just friends that I have too, right? So like whatever realm that is, as far as, hey, this is help that I need specific to X, Y, and Z, and being able to know where you can go, is so important.
Nope, I agree, man. And I kind of want to flip up a little bit here. I want to talk about someone that's inspired you, man. Talk about people in your path that have inspired you over the last couple of years, not only in baseball but in life, man.
Yeah, wow, that's a loaded one. I mean, first and foremost, like my parents, Steve and Allison, I shouted them out a little bit earlier on, but like you talk about support system, I think just with my dad, right, with sports, he's a college hockey player, never forced hockey amongst me, right? He's from New England. I'm,
Man, I
born
knew I
born and
had to blame.
raised.
This man could have made you a hockey guy. Look at this, man.
He
I'm
could have.
pissed off again. I'm pissed off again. Go ahead.
No, but I will say though, it's like it was very, how I came about my love for, baseball and football too. I wasn't as good of a football player, obviously,
Yeah,
but
me either. Me either.
that's your brother Adam.
Yes, 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 it is.
But no, but like there was nothing was ever forced from an athletic side, right? Like, he would coach little league, and he was so locked in on everything, right? But like, when I got to a certain age where like he just wanted to see me ball, right? Like that's
Yeah,
all it really was. And his perspective in general, right? And you talk about like the mental side of baseball and how important that is. That was a huge foundational piece, and then just my mom too, for support on maybe not like the X's and O's as far as the sports go, but just encouragement, right? Like everyone
yeah,
needs the pat on the back, like the, hey, you got this, proud of you, like those things go a long way, right? So I think
yeah.
them, and obviously my two younger sisters, Carly and Rachel as well, you know they were a support for myself, and continue throughout this day. So they're holding it down out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So a little bit of ways
Love
from
it.
home, but yeah. So family first and foremost, and then from a baseball perspective, I have a laundry list of people,
Oh yeah,
that from a support side, right? Obviously Adam O'Malley,
yeah.
comes to the top of the head. Adam Smith, Kevin Sullivan, Mike Stosky, Colin Connor, Mitch Wilson. Forgive me if I'm leaving a few out, but yeah, like I mean,
Man,
my
I'll,
entire
I'll,
my
I'll
entire my
cut you.
entire
I'll
Cougar
cut you
staff.
off, man. I'll cut you
Yeah.
off because you're throwing out some big hitters out there, man. Those are some big names and a lot of region killers. I hate to say it, but go ahead, go ahead.
No, but I mean, again, like, and everyone has like support system, right? That's the biggest thing, and just being blessed with phenomenal people in my life, you know, not just in my baseball career, playing or coaching, but just people that, you know, you can build relationships with and just kind of, you know, have your back, you know, your foundation, so to speak. Right. You know, Scott McHale, Jack McNamara, Alec Mueller, a couple of my boys from high school that, you know, played ball with a couple of them, played some other sports with them too. But yeah, sophomore football, me and Alex Mueller, QB wide receiver duo. But
Love it. Love
yeah,
it.
we got you know, the Grenadiers had our number more so in football.
Yeah, we'll take our Grenadier love there because we're not getting any college love on this
Yes,
pod.
sir.
But high school, I think we lost to Hersey too in baseball back in the day. We were having our best year. We lost to you guys. I'll never forget that. Story for a different podcast. But in all seriousness, man, like that's awesome. That's what it's all about, man. I look, I'm getting married here next October, as you know, and I'm sitting there at the engagement party yesterday, and the groomsmen are like 4 of my college teammates. And I'm like, God, this game. Like this game. And they're from all branches of life, man. Like guys I coach with, guys I played with, guys I coached and played against. It's the beauty, man. There's a lot of Barrington, Elk Grove, Conant, like all the boys are represented,
the MSL.
man. That's what it's all about, man. So I love to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, the MSL representing. And you know, quick shout out to Adam Smith, you know, at Ben and Lyle as well, right? You know, played for him at Concordia, Chicago, you know, coached underneath him, Benedictine in Illinois. And you know, one of the things that he would say to us, I remember, you know, as incoming freshmen, you know, take a look at the guys around you and you kind of like look and peek, and he's like, fellas, like these are guys that are, you know, gonna potentially be in your wedding one day, right? And you know, as a player, you don't think much of it, and then, you know, working, you know, beside him, you know, there's running like, you know, you kind of take it as like a joke, but like then you look around and like, yes, like, you know, you got a wedding coming up, right? And I've had some friends get married, you know, this summer, and it's like, wow, like you are looking around, it's like, yeah, like Smitty was telling the truth, like he
was right,
you know,
he was right. Yeah, he was right.
He's very spot on with that.
Yeah, and I laugh about it, man, because my buddy Kramer Brandt, obviously Conant guy, played at Rockford. You know, we've been boys for 28 years now. Like we met on the T-ball field, and we've been best friends for the last 20 plus years. And you just sit there, you're like, dang, like how cool is that? I don't know. That's where I'm at. I think sports can do that, right? And it's worth, you know, back to the mental health piece, it's worth the setbacks. It's worth the tough times. It's worth the mundane, boring stuff that we don't like to do, but we do anyway because we love the game, right? So I think that's a huge piece. So if you are struggling, get back with your community. And if you're having a darn good time, probably because the people around you are great.
No doubt. Yeah. Just that support. And you talked about like the mundane activity and like just the process, right? Finding a way to fall in love with it, right? If it's the game within the game, right? Like what in any realm, whether it's sports or life, I mean, just being able to, you know, take a step back and really, you know, evaluate, say, hey, you know, it's where I'm at, you know, where do I want to be? And just kind of enjoying the journey that you're on, because, hey, everyone's got their own race that they're running, right? And you're running yours. So just do the best that you can and call it a day, right? Like
you're exactly right, man. You have a couple of decisions to make, right? Like you can look to your left and right and go, man, like why does that guy have this? Or why does she have that? Or you could go with the mindset of, how can these people teach me? How can I be a sponge? How can I take the good, the bad, the indifferent, make it my own to keep going? And I think there's a lot of power in that too. And I think it was Jackson Merrill. I hate to misquote it, a guy from the Padres. And they were talking about falling in love with the everyday mundane stuff. You look at your career, man, you did, man. Like you fell in love with the stuff that no one else wanted to do. That's why you're one of the best D3 hitters I've ever seen. And that makes sense. And that's why you're going to have a great coaching career, and you'll be a great dad and a great father and all this stuff down the road, because you've decided, okay, I know what the separator is. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think like going like and touching on that, it's like the everyday from like the playing aspect. It's like, my college roommate, Mitch Wilson, right? Region killer, so to speak.
Mitch was the same way. Mitch was the same way. Yeah.
But we college roommates, and hey, like we're getting the cages, right? Like 5-6 times a week in the off season. We're taking, whether it's flips or the hack attack or doing whatever, like we're in the cages, a couple hours a day in the off season. And it's like, that's the mundane process that, that we fell in love with. And I think, and it doesn't end, obviously with Mitch. It's like, the guys, that the support that we had, on the team was awesome. But like from a living situation, like living together, playing summer baseball in Kentucky together, there was at one point, I think there was like 10 calendar days where like we didn't share the same room because we were college roommates, and then we went and we played summer baseball in Kentucky,
for the love of the game, man.
Exactly. So it's like falling in love with that process, whatever it is, for you. It could be sports. If it's, someone that's, in business, or a teacher or a doctor, like it doesn't end with just sports.
No, I think it's a nice, sports are a big time microcosm for life, man. I think that's a huge part of it. I think it's what our listeners get out of this every week, man. Like stuff like that. Awesome. Okay. So I do look at the clock pretty often during these, and we're 30 minutes in. So what I want to do is I want to go rapid fire questions, and then we'll wrap up with some flower stuff for you, if that's cool by you.
Absolutely.
Let's do it, man. Well, I usually kick it over to David or kick it over to Luke or Jackie back in the day, but it's just me and you today. My first question for you is, man, at the end of all this, man, what are you looking to accomplish?
You're speaking from like a coaching perspective?
Life in general.
Yeah, no, I just want to be, I want to be the best version of myself. And I know that's kind of a cliche, and
I love that answer.
Open-ended, but like in whatever I'm doing, if it's coaching, if it's baseball, if it's, my, relationship with, my parents, my sisters, right? Like who am I, just from a character's perspective, right? Like I just want to be the best version of myself. And I know that's kind of just like, it's that, but not putting a bookend on it. A little tangent, but like Matthew McConaughey, like he has this, he's accepting awards for an Oscar, and he talks about who his role model is, right? Or who he looks after, right? And it's like, it's me 10 years from now, right? And so like he sets these 10-year goals, right? And he's always going to be chasing that guy, the next 10 years, right? And so that's for me, it's like I don't want to put any, frame or markers on it, and I'm just going to keep chasing. But again, just being like, hey, like I'm going to run my race the best I can.
I love that answer, man. Just working on yourself and trying to be the best you. That's a fantastic answer. That's my favorite one to that question so far on this podcast. So I appreciate you. Yeah, man. I love that. All right. Second one coming your way. Obviously, you like the physical aspect of things, the exercise piece, the working out, the eating right stuff. Give me a healthy food that doesn't get enough playing time.
Ooh, that's a great question. I think honestly, like ground turkey tacos. That might be an off collar, but like I think it's
great call.
You get some taco seasoning in there. Like ground turkey's like great source of protein, and then you can mix it in with if you want flour or corn tortilla. Mix some rice in there, whatever your go to is. But I'm a huge Chipotle advocate, like burrito bowl all day. But yeah, that's one that like I think I've been doing a little bit, and it's like, oh, like it's a power up right there.
I'm with you, man. I got that in my freezer behind me. Ashton's not all about it yet, but I'll get her there because I got it in my freezer all the time. That's
Absolutely.
For sure. Yes, sir. Third and final question. I know we got some stuff on the horizon in the podcast world that we wanted to touch on. I need to hear about it. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's got a running title right now. Basically, myself and a friend of mine, his name is also Joe Schwartz. Shout him out.
Shout him out, baby.
And
shout him out.
We'll figure out the name in the running title, but basically we came up with this idea a couple of weeks ago where, hey, like the name Joe, right? It's a very you hear, oh, average Joe, this and that. And we had this idea basically like, what if we just have a podcast about, we talk about Joes, right? You can talk about, Joe Namath or Joe Burrow or, Joe Rogan, right? So it's just like, we're going to do like little quick hitting segments on, Joes that are famous, so to speak. And, we'll have some guest interviews. We're going to talk a little bit about our life as well. So, myself with, baseball and coaching, and Joe Schwartz is a big time golfer. So he's actually competing right now, in an amateur qualifier down in St. Louis where he's from. So
Nice.
yeah, there'll just be, and we'll talk country music too, because we're both big country music fans.
I love
so
it. I love it.
It's just
man.
going to be a wide range of topics. And we don't have a title yet for it, but I got a Spotify page and we got some things in the works. So yeah, we'll make sure to keep a lookout for that and a collab here soon.
Love it, man. Well, if I ever can support that in any way, David as well, man, let us know. Off the top of the dome, Joe Filomeno is the head of our facility at Athletes HQ, played for Louisville, got drafted by the Rangers. Wouldn't be a bad guy to be in the Joe mix.
Not bad at all.
In the country music world, Joe Nichols isn't a bad Joe to throw in the mix as well. So who knows? We'll see if we ever get connected with those two people on that podcast in a future date. But awesome stuff. Awesome stuff, man. Well, here's what we'll do. I will wrap us up. I always want to talk about what we can do for you. Obviously, outside of the podcast, I want to kind of give you your flowers moment. And how can we help you, man, as a nonprofit and as a podcast?
Yeah, certainly. And again, appreciate you more than anything, allowing me the opportunity to come on with you today. It's always great to talk, but I think just from a support side of things, right? Follow the Redhawks.
Got to, baby.
Hit them on social, which I believe you have already. We got a great group of just some gritty blue collar guys that get it, that love the process, and they're high character kids too. And I'm so incredibly fortunate and blessed for that. Right. So yeah, I think just the support with the Redhawks and just following the journey as is. I mean, I'm a guy who, hey, I don't mind taking a back seat to, allow people to, have their flowers. Right. So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll deflect that 10 times out of 10. But man, no, we have a really good thing going, and loving it down in Arizona too. So that had been a transition, and there's been some, good days and bad days with that, kind of being isolated on your own. But again, I got a phenomenal support staff, right? And I mean, shout out my guy Adam O'Malley, as you know.
Yes,
right?
sir.
I mean,
yes, sir.
We talk on the phone probably every day, like at least for like 5-10 minutes, just on the phone. If it's something work, if it's something baseball, if it's something just life, that's the shout outs. But yeah, no, I'm very blessed for all the people I have in my life, and just the opportunity in this platform to come on today and, talk a little bit about, what we got going.
I love it, man. And I appreciate you jumping on, man. This is, like I said in the prelude, this was long overdue, man. You're a guy in the baseball world that not only I respect, but I have a lot of love for you, man. And I appreciate all you've done for myself and my family in this podcast, man. So thank you again.
Absolutely. No doubt. No, I appreciate you, Pat.
All good, man. Well, I will wrap us up. I think with the Ben stuff, I need to get a gear package, man. I need to support you that way. If you got one, send it to me. Speaking of that, we got the Keep Going bracelets now. So I'm going to send you a couple of these bad boys.
Nice.
That are on my wrist. And I do have one ad read before I wrap us up. I have to shout out my guy, Dan McCarty, out there in Vegas. Joe, do you know Dan actually? You might actually know who he is. Dan McCarty was coach of the year 2 years ago, all around the baseball world. I don't know if you know him personally. He's always at ABCA, always. I don't know if you know him.
Name's familiar.
Yeah, man. I got to get you guys connected. Dan is a great guy, but for the sake of a non-traditional ad read here, Dan McCarty is doing virtual stuff out in the Vegas area for catching. Awesome dude. Awesome community of guys that he's building. So if you're interested, you can find all the information in the bio today. But Joe, besides all else, man, I appreciate you a bunch. Hope you have a great Sunday, and keep going, baby.
Absolutely. No, keep going indeed, Pat. Thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Always, man. Always, man. Talk to you soon. Appreciate you, Joe.
All right. Be good. Thank you.